Welcome to Pure Experiences live streams. This is a new live stream where I am going to read the English translation of Mandukya Karika by Gaudapada, which is a commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad. So I found this translation online on a website called Wisdom Library. So let's go there and find out what is there in this very famous text. So this is the web page. Mandukya Upnishad, Gaudapada, Karika and Shankara Bhashya. This is by let me fix the stream a bit. So there it is, and Mandukya Upanishad, Gaudapada, Karika and Shankar Bhashya by Swami Nikhilanand, published in 1949. It is very old translation, but still very good. Actually, I tried to find some other books, other translations, but they were too heavy for me to read here, too big. So this is also very lengthy, but let us take a look into it. What does this Karika says? The school of philosophy this book attempts to expose is Advaita Vedanta, a non-dualistic path to spiritual realization of the self. Many of the verses from the Karika attempt to illustrate the identification of the Atman, self, with Brahman, God, and that there exists no distinction or separateness. It does so by, among others, drawing various examples from Shruti and Smriti sources. These are other books. And it also contains Shankara's commentary or Bhashya. And not only that, this book also contains Anand Giri's Tika or sub-commentary. So if you don't know Sanskrit, don't worry. There is English translation by Swami Nikhilanand, and he has also translated Shankara's commentary into English, which is on the Gaudapada's Karika. And not only that, there is Tika, that means comments by Anand Giri, who is also a well-known scholar in the field of Vedanta Advaita. He is very, very ancient scholar actually. So there is Mandukya Upanishad, very tiny Upanishad. On that is Gaudapada's explanation. On the explanation is commentary by Shankara, and on the commentary of Shankara there is sub-commentary by Anand Giri. Now you must be wondering, why do we need this kind of elaborate scheme to understand this tiny Upanishad called the Mandukya? So we will see, we will find out. The Upanishads are not the most accessible text in this universe. They are highly condensed and highly encrypted texts. It takes 2 or 3 big scholars to understand what they are saying actually. And there is no wonder that people do not understand it, and they think that they're misunderstanding and they misinterpret it all the time. So I also don't claim to understand everything that is written in the Upanishads, and that is why I take help of the commentaries. If you go and read the Upanishads, you will find, okay, I understand this line here, I understand that word here, but I don't understand fully what they are saying and why they are saying this thing. So this is the issue with all the Upanishads actually. If the sole object be the attainment of the highest truth, the supreme goal of existence, the single Upanishad of Mandukya is sufficient. Muktiko Upanishad. Some praise of Mandukya Upanishad here. The Upanishad, the Mandukya, with the Karika, embodies in itself the quintessence of the substance of the entire philosophy of Vedanta. Shankara said this. So, and Mandukya Upanishad is very, very popular for some reason. We'll find out why. This book contains the Upanishad also. So there are some notes here. Let us see what the notes say. The unique feature of Mandukya lies in this, that while all other Upanishads deal with the several phases of Vedanta such as religion, theology, scholasticism, mysticism, science, metaphysics and philosophy, Mandukya deals exclusively with philosophy as defined by the most modern authorities. The three fundamental problems of philosophy according to this special treatise are the nature of external material and internal mental worlds, the nature of consciousness, and the meaning of causality. Each of these subjects is dealt with in a chapter. So the first chapter sums up the whole at the very commencement. There is nothing more for philosophy to do, while it shows how the most advanced modern sciences and modern philosophies are approaching its conclusions. It gives to the world of our own times its central doctrine that partial data give partial truth, whereas the totality of data alone gives the perfect truth. So these are the notes. We can skip the rest. You got the idea what the book has in it. As a big forward, I'm not going to read the forward. Again, a very big preface, skipping the preface. And here is the Shankara's introduction to the Mandukya Upnishad. With the word Om, etc., begins the treatise consisting of 4 chapters, the quintessence of the substance of the import of Vedanta. Hence, no separate mention is made of the mutual relationship, the subject matter, and the object to be attained. Matters usually stated in an introduction to the study of any Vedantic treatise. For that which constitutes the relationship, the subject matter, and the object of the Vedantic study is evident here. Nevertheless, that one desirous of explaining a prakran or treatise should deal with them is the opinion of the scholastic. This treatise must be said to contain a subject matter on the account of its revealing the means for the realization of Atman that serves the purpose or the end to be attained. And as you can see, it looks like a word soup for the uninitiated. It is probably word by word translation of what Shankara said about the Mandukya Upanishad. And you will know the Mandukya Upnishad not by this kind of translations, but by reading the Mandukya Upanishads. So still there are some things which can be gained from this introduction by Shankar. This realization as a man stricken with disease regains his normal state with the removal of the disease, so the self laboring under misapprehension owing to identification of itself with misery recovers its normal state with the cessation of illusion of duality, which manifests itself as the phenomenal universe. This realization of non duality is the end to be attained. This treatise is for the purpose of revealing Brahman, inasmuch as by knowledge the illusion of duality caused by ignorance is destroyed. So this is the purpose of Mandukya Upanishad or any other Upanishad actually, to provide the knowledge, destroy the ignorance. The first chapter then seeks by dealing specifically with the Vedic texts to indicate the traditional means to the realization of the essential nature of Atman, and is devoted to the determination of the meaning of Om. The second chapter seeks rationally to demonstrate the unreality of duality, the illusion of the illusion being destroyed, the knowledge of non-duality, as the cessation of the imagination of snake, etc., and the rope reveals the real nature of the rope. The third chapter is devoted to the rational demonstration of the truth of non-duality, lest it should, in like manner, be contended to be unreal. And this should be very interesting, isn't it? The third chapter. The fourth chapter is devoted to the rational refutation of other schools of thought, and that should be again interesting, how it refutes the other dual schools of thought which are antagonistic to the truth as pointed out in Vedas, which are opposed to the knowledge of the Advaitic reality, by pointing out their falsity on account of their own mutual contradiction. So they will try to find what is the contradiction in their philosophy. They will point it out. So on this introduction by Shankar, Anand Giri has made some comments here. And you can see this is called sub-commenting, but it is longer than the actual, the original text. So it happens like this. I find the original matter more straightforward than this kind of sub-commentary somehow. So it will become a very involved process if we go into the Tika also. So I'm going to skip it. But we'll look at the Anand Giri's sub-commentary whenever we don't understand what is really happening there. So let's go forward. Introductory remarks by Shankar. How does again the determination of The meaning of Om helped the realization of the essential nature of Atman. It is thus explained. The Shruti passage such as these declare thus, it is Om. This Om is the best support. O Satyakama, it is the Om which is also the higher and lower Brahman. Meditate on the self as Om. Om, this word is Brahman. All this is verily Om. As the rope, etc., which are the substratum of such illusions as the snake, etc., so is the non-dual Atman, which is the ultimate reality, the substratum of such imaginations as the vital breath, prana, etc., which are unreal. Similarly, Om is the substratum of the entire illusion of the world of speech, having for its corresponding contents as such illusory objects as prana, etc., imagined in Atman. And Om is verily the same essential character as the Atman, for it is the name for Atman. All illusions such as prana, etc., having Atman for their substratum and denoted by words which are but modifications of Om, cannot exist without names which are but the modifications of Om. This is supported by such Shruti passages such as the modification being only a name arising from speech. All this related to it or the Brahman is held together by the cord of speech and strands of specific names. All these are rendered possible in experience by names, etc. So, as you can see, the text is filled with Sanskrit words. Now, you cannot avoid the Sanskrit words here. It is impossible. So, we will try to translate them as much as possible, but it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult when you are reading the ancient scriptures like this. I recommend learning the words, the Sanskrit words. It is just like when you go and read some textbook on the physics, you will need to learn the words that are in that domain. You cannot say that give me a plain English word every time you say energy, force or particle or quantum field or something. You cannot say that, you cannot do that. You will need to learn all those words, the technical words here. So I cannot give you a translation of Om. The Om is Om. There is no English word for that. There is no translation for things like Atman in English. It is translated as self with capital S, which causes a lot of problems. And there are no good translation for things like Prana or Brahman. So why are we reading this book? We are not reading this for gaining extra knowledge. There is nothing new to know. Remember this. There is nothing new to know except that which has been already given by me in various other places. The non-dual knowledge that has been already given is all there is. Nothing new will be shown in the Mandukya Upanishad or the Gaudapada Karika or any of the commentaries and commentaries on commentaries on commentaries. Nothing new will come up. But you will get a new vocabulary. You will know what these things were called in ancient times. And you will know how sophisticated and advanced that philosophy became. It has its own vocabulary. It has its own way to construct the sentences and all. So by reading such books, you will enter into the tradition. You will become one of these people. You will gain their language, and instead of sounding like a half-learned person, when you start using these technical words while you are discussing Advaita or you are discussing any other philosophy for that matter, you will be more clear in what you're expressing. I have seen that many people get the knowledge, they have the realization, but they cannot express it because they lack the vocabulary. For example, the Atman, Brahman, Self, Ego, everything is called I in English. Now imagine calling the electron, proton, gluon, and photon, everything is particle in particle physics. You have only one word for all these things. You call it particle or a ball. Well, this ball comes from here and it hits that ball and produces other balls. And somebody will say, what? What are you talking about? Similarly, there are many connotations of the name I when you go into Sanskrit. And now you will know what it means by Atman. How the Atman is different from Brahman, or why do we use two words? Why the Aham is different from Atman? Why there are 20 words for mind? Why there are 15 words for knowledge and intellect? You will come to know that. And there is no translation in English for that. This is a very specific topic we are in. And I am reading, I sometimes read these books just to build up a good vocabulary of what I am talking about. Yes, I do not use them. The Sanskrit is very scary language for many people. And so as soon as I start speaking in using Sanskrit words, people think, oh, he is just preaching some religion, because that's what they know. They do not know that all of the sciences, arts and philosophies were in Sanskrit. Not only religious texts, not only the praise of gods and goddesses and rituals. All of the content of ancient India, the subcontinent, was in Sanskrit. So that's why sometimes I use English words whenever possible. What are you going to use for Om, for example, in English? Nothing is there. Now you will find a little bit of problems in the translation in English. For example, he says Om is the substratum of the entire illusion of the world of speech. Now what is the world of speech? Now here you can see there is a mistranslation. This is speech has been mistranslated. I mean, this word does not mean what it is supposed to mean. And I don't have the Sanskrit here, you see. The Sanskrit is going to come in the proper chapters. So, no, there is no such thing as world of speech. It is the world of vibrations, most probably. You can replace it with word and then it will be more accurate. But if you replace it with vibrations, now it makes sense. Om is the substratum of the entire illusion of the world of vibrations. And that is my interpretation. And that will be my contribution, you see, like this. When we start reading the scripture, the Gaudapada Karika or the commentary by Shankar, etc. So don't worry if you don't see how these things are supposed to be correlated with your own experience. So he says the non-dual Atman is the ultimate reality, the substratum of such imaginations as the vital breath. Now you can understand this much, that the Atman or the self or the pure consciousness is the ultimate reality. He is claiming this. But what is this thing now? What is this vital breath? The prana has been translated into vital breath. Now you can see there is a number here, and you can try to ask Anand Giri about vital breath. Let's see what he says. The non-dual Brahman, being the only existing reality, does not admit of any other existence. Therefore, prana, etc., and their effects are but mental manifestations which are unreal, having Brahman for their substratum, like the illusion of snake superimposed upon a rope. So, it does not tell you what is vital breath. It does not translate prana. Because this word does not belong to Advait, it belongs to the Yoga, Sankhya, whatever, Tantra, and this has nothing to do with breath. The breathing that you and me are doing right now, prana has nothing to do with it. That is the gross activity of the body. What is prana? Pran Vayu. It is a force, it is an energy that keeps the non-living things alive, that puts the energy that animates the non-living beings. So more like the anima of Greco-Roman whatever philosophy, prana. So it's called vital breath. Why? Because somebody did not understand. Somebody failed to invent a good word for prana because it was not there in their vocabulary, and it got corrupted like this. That is why when you read the textbooks, or worse, if you read the English translation, you will not know anything. You will never know anything. You will need to enter into the sea of philosophy to know something about what they are saying. So again, more remarks. And now we are, I think it jumped into the verse 3, no problem. So we are starting the Mandukya Upanishad here. Now, I'm not going to go into too much into commentary. So let's see what happens. And we have the Sanskrit here. So I don't, bother to read the Sanskrit shloks because it requires a little bit of practice to read it. If you have heard Sanskrit people reading the verses, you will find that they almost sing the verse. They do not say one word at a time. The Sanskrit is a language. We do not know how they actually verbalized these words. We do not know how they spoke these things. But it looks like, at least to me, that it was a continuous stream of sounds instead of word by word like we do it in Hindi or English. There was unbroken stream of, it almost looked like a song. So we can attempt to read it word by word. It is going to sound very, very funny actually. Everybody is going to laugh. Jagrit sthano bahish prajna saptang eko na vishanti mukh stool. See, I got stuck, and it becomes really difficult to read this. So what I'll do, I'll read the Sanskrit whenever we get stuck in the mistranslation or something which I don't understand. Then I'll go to Sanskrit, find out what words are being used. So it is more like a detective work now. It is more like research. And if you are a seeker like I am, this is you will find it interesting. Otherwise, it's very, very boring. It's very boring because I'm not going to get any new knowledge here. Then why should I do all this kind of hard work? And just like I said, it won't give you new knowledge. It will clear your mind. Your mind will become crystal clear, just like Shankar himself. You will be able to explain each and everything in as few words as possible using the condensed vocabulary of Advait. So if you want to sharpen your knife of Advait, then the reading is useful. Otherwise, forget about knowledge. There is no knowledge here. Nothing here. Nothing new that you already don't know. So let's go back to the translation directly. And the verse number 3 of the Mandukya Upanishad translated like this. The first quarter, pada, is Vaishvanara, whose sphere of activity is the waking state, who is conscious of external objects, who has 7 limbs and 19 mouths, and whose experience consists of gross material objects. So as soon as you read this, well, what is this? And whether I am pronouncing it correctly or not? No, we will need to go here in the Sanskrit text to pronounce it correctly. So you can see here, Vaishvanarha. This is how it is pronounced here. If you try to pronounce this word, well, it is guaranteed that you will pronounce it wrong. So by looking at the Sanskrit here, you can see it is made up of Vishwa and Nar. The Vishwa means the world, Nar means the human, man. Now you get a little bit of insight what he is talking about, what the Mandukya Upanishad is talking about. So, and here you can see Jagrit Sthano. That Jagrit means waking state. Sthano is place. Bahish Pragya. Pragya is intellect. Bahish is extroverted. Bahi means outside. Looking outside. Now you can make a little bit of head and tail. What is this Mandukya Upanishad verse 3 saying? Without Sanskrit, oh well, you are on the mercy of this thing. Now I don't claim that I will understand each and everything in the Sanskrit verse, but with the help of this English translation, you can try to connect what is going on here. So sthula means the gross. So yes, it's kind of correctly translated here. But you will not know why it is called the Vaishvanar. And who is called the Vaishvanar? And whose first quarter he is talking about? No, you will not know even from the translation. Here you will need a guru. And obviously you do not know the meaning of 7 limbs and 19 mouths. You see, it is some internal secret, isn't it? We don't know. Even though we can see in the Sanskrit, Saptang Ekona Vishanti Mukh, which means 7 limbs and 19 mukh. Mukh is the mouth. So let us see. That is why we have the commentary. So there is something called Vaishvanar in the waking state, whose domain is waking state, and who is conscious of external objects, and forget about the 7 limbs, 19 mouths, but whose experience consists of gross material objects. Now you can guess a little bit, it's talking about me only. This is my name only. Because I am the one who remains in the waking state, and my sphere of activity is the waking state, you see. In this is a state of me, and I am conscious of external objects. I am conscious of the world, the gross material world. So, this verse 3 of Mandukya Upanishad is talking about me, myself, which is also known as Atman. You see? So, without initial knowledge, without initiation, you won't be able to make any head and tail of it. Even when I read, I need to sit down for 5 minutes and think, "Oh, what is this thing saying really? Why?" So now that remains to known is, what is this? 7 limbs and 19 mouths. Hopefully we'll get clue in the commentary. So Jagristhana, that is his sphere of activities, the waking state. This is Shankar saying now. And Shankar also said it in Sanskrit. Probably those days people could not even understand the Upanishads while being educated in Sanskrit. So they needed the Bhashya commentary. Bahishprashna. Now don't be afraid of Sanskrit words. You don't need to memorize all of it. Just memorize the keywords. You know what is Jagriti, so yes, that is all. But the compound words like this, you don't need to memorize them. You know what is Prajna. You don't need to memorize everything that gets joined with Prajna. So hopefully my suggestions will be helpful here. I mean, if you get scared easily, just like I do, of the big text, you see, I don't get this motivation to read these things. Very, very boring, very, very dense things. That is why I am doing it online. Like it becomes a play. It becomes like we study together. In our school days, we used to call our friends to study together because alone you don't get the motivation. Something similar, you see. Just made it a play out of reading so that I can spend at least 1 hour or 1.5 hours engaging into the text. I know there are long-term benefits of doing this, although immediately you won't find anything new here. You will surely gain more insights, and you will surely see that your mind starts clearing up. The fog in the mind will start clearing up because now it has a concrete vocabulary and language to express what is going on. Ultimately, it has to be your own experience. So, the meaning is that the consciousness appears, as it were, related to outward objects on account of avidya. Avidya, he did not bother to translate, but you already know it means ignorance, isn't it? So similarly, he's saying that consciousness, it appears that it is related to outward objects, and this happens because of ignorance, because of not knowing what consciousness is. Similarly, Saptanga, that is, he has 7 limbs. The Shruti says, of that Vaishvanar self, the effulgent region is his head, the sun his eye, the air his vital breath, the ether or Akash, the middle part of his body, the water his kidney, and the earth his feet. And this is what the Shruti says. Now we will never find in the 7 heavens why why it says like this. What does it mean? You will need to enter that particular tradition to find out what they meant by these things. So we are not going to go there right now. The fire, one of these fires of the Agnihotra sacrifice, has been described as his mouth in order to complete the imagery of the Agnihotra sacrifice. He is called Saptanga because these are the 7 limbs of his body. So this is somehow related to the Agnihotra, the Yagya, the ritual that was very, very common in the Vedic period. And that is why these words, they managed to get into Upanishad, like Mandukya and all. But I'm pretty sure that they make no difference to the essential meaning of whatever has been presented here. So don't worry with the words related to the ritual like Saptang and Ekon Vishmukha get into. It is very, very characteristic of that tradition, that civilization that existed 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. So similarly, he has 19 mouths. Who? He. Consciousness. I. He has 19 mouths. Now, what are these mouths? These are the 5 organs of perceptions. Buddhendriya, the 5 organs of action. Karmendriya, the 5 aspects of vital breath. The mind, which is also called manas. The intellect, buddhi. Egoity, ahamkar. Mind stuff. Chit. These are, as it were, the mouths. That is the instruments by means of which the Vaishvanar experiences objects. So if you know all these things, isn't it? When you say 19 mouths, then you have no clue what are 19 mouths. I never heard about my own 19 mouths. I have only one mouth. So it is not talking about the mouth that is present on the body. He is talking about the aspects of consciousness which are manifested in the waking state. What are those aspects? As far as I know, there are 5 organs of perceptions. You know them. You know the 5 organs of actions also. And you probably don't know the 5 aspects of prana, which are the different kind of activities of the subtle body, the etheric body. These activities are divided into 5 kinds. So the prana, apana, udana, and etc. You will find these things very much in the Sankhya Yoga philosophy or Tantra and Hatha Yoga philosophies. They are all derived from here, probably, or from the Upanishads. They are the source, isn't it? So these are and the energies that keep the body alive and functioning, isn't it? And there is, again, the mind is there. There is thinking is going on. And the intellect is there. Their reasoning and logical ability is there. Plus, there is the monster, the ahamkar. That is which is, usually translated into I in English. Now you understand why we need the Sanskrit words. If you slap I on everything, you will get out of the room mighty confused. There are no English translations of these words. But you know from your own direct experience that there is an activity in the mind that is owning whatever these 19 mouths are doing. That is ahamkar. It says me, mine, I did it, I thought it, my desire, so on. The body is me, and the mind is me, and this is me, and that is me. This is the process that is going on. It is not buddhi, you know that. It is not thinking, you know that. I do not think the ahamkara into existence. It is another process, very, very unique process, which all of you know by now, because I keep bashing this thing a lot, isn't it? It is our enemy and so on. Is the ahamkar. So I will take, leave from the English translations, and whenever possible, I'll try to use the technical words, Sanskrit, because now we are not in the domain of satsangs and all. We are in the domain of proper Advait Upanishads and all. Here you cannot escape the Sanskrit and then claim to know what they're talking about. No. Get the technical vocabulary. That is why we are reading it, you see. It will take away your fear of Sanskrit and heavy discourses like this. So mind stuff. The Chitta has no English word, no English translation. Mind stuff means nothing. What is Chitta? There is no English word for Chitta. So it is that whatever appears out of the nad, out of the vibration, whatever takes form is Chitta. This is my understanding. The Hermetic philosopher will call it mind with a capital M. So, but when it gets into English, loses meaning. It does not help to call it mind stuff. But what can we do? There is nothing in English for Chitta. They do not have this understanding. They do not have this knowledge. So it is absent from the language. That is why when I recorded the Hindi series, I faced no problems at all. I could go into extreme detail while talking about what is Chitta and all. In English, well, you hit the brick wall because your vocabulary stops at some place. These are, as it were, the mouths. That is the instrument by which the Vaishnav Nar experiences. By the way, the Vaishnav Nar will be shortened into Vishwa very soon. Nar will be dropped. Now you can understand from where the Vishwa, Tejas and all these things are coming from. He, the Vaishwanar, has constituted experiences through the instruments enumerated above, gross objects such as sound, etc. Okay, thus constituted, which is made up of all these, 5 plus 19 things, 24 things, 24 aspects, is, the Vaishnav Nar is thus constituted of 24 aspects. What does it do? Experiences through the instruments, the gross objects, such as sound, visions and whatever, people, trees, hills, rivers and whatever. He is called Vaishwanar because he leads all creatures of the universe in diverse ways to the enjoyment of various objects. So he is not talking about you and me, he is talking about the self. The self now appears to itself in many, many forms and using a variety of instruments, which are just creatures. What are these creatures? They are just different instruments of experience, isn't it? Including this creature, which is this human body. So in the whole universe, it creates this play to experience. What is the experience for? Enjoyment of various objects, which is it itself. It is like a play for myself being acted by myself only. I am the director, I am the producer, I am the actor, I am the cameraman, I am the audience only. Very funny, isn't it? So this Vaishwanar, our physical existence, the state of the waking state, not to be taken very seriously, isn't it? It's a drama, it's a play. Because he comprises all beings. Everything is he alone. He means the consciousness alone. Whatever appears is the speech. No, I'm just joking. Whatever appears is the vibrations of consciousness. Following the grammatical rules regarding the compound which gives the later meaning, the word that is formed is Vaishwanar, which is the same as Vaishwanar. The word which is formed is Vishwanar, which is the same as Vaishwanar. So a tiny bit of technical detail here. He is the first quarter because he is non-different from the totality of gross bodies known as Virat. He is called the first quarter because the subsequent quarters are realized through him, Vaishwanar. What is this matter of quarters? Well, this is the first quarter. The other three are coming. They're coming in the other verses. They are just states of consciousness. This is the first state of consciousness. The quarter is a translation of Pad here. Pad, which also means leg. It is one leg, like the cow has 4 legs. This is one of them. So, there is an objection. So Shankar is dealing with an objection by somebody. So while the subject matter under discussion treats of the innermost self, Pratyak Atma, as having 4 quarters, in this text, the Atman is Brahman, how is it that the external universe consisting of the effulgent regions, etc., have been described as its limbs, such as head, etc.? So the objection here is, you are dealing with something which is innermost self, and you are calling the external things as its own limbs. Isn't it different from whatever it is experiencing? This is the objection. So let me see what Shankara is replying here. This, however, is no mistake, because the object is to describe the entire phenomena, including those of gods, Adi Deva, as having 4 quarters. From the standpoint of this, Atman known as the Virat, that is the totality of gross universe, and in this way alone is non-duality established by the removal of the illusion of the entire phenomena. Further, the one Atman is realized as existing in all beings, and all beings are seen as existing in Atman. And thus alone, the meaning of such Shruti passages as who sees all beings in the self, etc., can be said to be established. Otherwise, the subjective world will verily be, as in the case of such philosophers as the Sankhya's, limited by one's own body. And if that be the case, no room would be left for the Advait, which is the special feature of the Shruti. For in the case of duality, there would be no difference between the Advaita and Sankhya and other systems. The establishment of the identity of all with Atman is sought by all the Upanishads. It is therefore quite reasonable to speak of the effulgent regions, etc., as 7 limbs in connection with the subjective individual self or Adhyatma, associated with the gross body, because of its identity with the Adideva, comprising the superphysical regions universe from the standpoint of the Virat, which is the totality of the gross physical universe. This is further known from such characteristic indication of the Shruti as thy head shall fall. The identity of Adhyatma and Adideva from the standpoint of the Virat indicates similar identity of the selves known as Hiranyagarbha and Tejas, as well as the unmanifested Ishvara and the Pragya. It is also stated in the Madhu Brahman, this bright immortal person in this earth and the bright immortal person in the body, both are Madhu. This is established fact that the self in deep sleep, Pragya, is identical with the unmanifested Ishvara because of the absence of any distinctions between them. Such being the case, it is clearly established that non-duality is realized by the disappearance of the illusion of all duality. A lot was said here in the reply, although it is not our business to find out what he replied to the objection. But the objection is clearly coming from a dual standpoint, isn't it? He's saying you are telling this exists, and then you are telling the innermost self also exists. Isn't that duality? So he says, yes, if you do not see all beings in the self, then there will be no difference between Sankhya's and the Vedanta. So he's saying it here. Otherwise, the subjective world will be, as in case of such philosophers as Sankhya's, limited by its own one's own body. So he's saying, although we say it like this, that it is witnessing something separate, but the Atman is not separate, although we say it. And there is a new name for Atman here, Virat. Virat means big, very big. So the totality of the gross universe. There is one more word here. So it is not Brahman, obviously, because Brahman is everything. But the Atman, as it appears as the whole, is engaged in this Vishwanara experience, he's saying. It is not looking at something else, it is looking at itself. That is what he's saying. And you don't need to worry too much about Madhu, Brahmana and all this is not our business. So Anandagiri, well, do we need him here? I think no. We can go ahead. We can go ahead with our next thing. Let me see, did I skip something? Yes, I think I just skipped through this because I could not find the verses here. So I don't know where is the verse here, but here is the first verse which I skipped somehow because I could not find it. There is no verse here, but there is introductory remark by Shankara. Let me find the verse. So for your viewing pleasure, I am giving you the verse number 1. So here is the whole of the Mandukya Upanishad. That's all it is. It is very, very small. So the first verse says, Hari Om. Om is the word, is all this, the whole universe. A clear explanation of it as follows. All that is past, present and future is indeed Om. And whatever else there is beyond the threefold division of time, that is also truly Om. And this is the first verse. It's talking about the Om. So the whole of the universe, the whole of the existence is now called Om. Hereafter will be known by the name of Om. That is what the first verse is saying. I don't know what happened here. The book is missing the verse or something, some problem in the website here. So no problem. We'll go through the remarks by Shankara on the first verse also. So how does again the determination of the meaning of Om help the realization of the essential nature of Atman? It is thus explained in the Shruti passage such as this. These declare thus, it is Om. Oh no, I read it actually. I read it already. Okay. So what was skipped was verse 2. So you can already see it is so confusing already. So verse 2 says, all this is indeed Brahman. This Atman is Brahman. The same Atman has four quarters. So now it is more clear what is going on here. We can skip to the commentary remarks by Shankar on verse 2. So, though the name and the object signified by the name are one and the same, still explanation has been given here by giving prominence to the name Om. Though in the Upanishadic passage, Om, this word, is all this, explanation has been furnished by giving prominence to the name Om. The same thought is again expounded by giving prominence to the thing specified by the name. The object is to realize the knowledge of oneness of the name and thus signified by it. Otherwise, the explanation that the knowledge of the thing is dependent on the name might suggest that the oneness of the name and the thing is to be taken only in the figurative sense. The purpose of the knowledge of the unity of the name and the thing signified by it is to simultaneously remove by a single effort the illusion of both the name and the thing and establish the nature of Brahman, which is other than both. Therefore, the Shruti says the quarters are the letters of Om, Matra, and the letters are the quarters. So what he is saying essentially, according to my understanding here, very cryptic remarks, is that why the Om has been introduced. Why is this name introduced here? Why can't you simply say the universe or the existence? And he says the reason is to demolish both the Om and its the thing that it points to. That is what I could gather from whatever remarks given by the Shankar. So he says the purpose here is that when you deal with the name, you can remove by a single effort the illusion of both the name and the thing and establish the nature of Brahman, which is other than both. So Brahman is not Om, and it is not a name, and it is not the thing that Om is pointing to. So he says it is simply a step towards the knowledge of unity. So how can that be done? That's what we are going to see. So we have already discussed the verse 3, and we are in the verse 4. Fortunately, we have the verse here. So verse 4 says, the second quarter is the Tejas, whose sphere of activity is the dream, who is conscious of internal objects, who has 7 limbs and 19 mouths, and who experiences the subtle objects. So now you can see what is going on here. There are 4 quarters, out of which we have seen the first, and all of these 4 quarters taken together have been named Om, A-U-M, and the matras in the Om, they stand for the 4 quarters. The 4 quarters, they stand for the states of the consciousness. Can you see? Now you can join the dots. It is cryptic, highly encoded knowledge. The one word Om contains the whole of the Brahman. Can you see? So nice. attempt there by the old ancient rishis to compress everything in just one letter. It's a compound letter actually. Om. So that is why the Om is called the highest mantra, isn't it? because it has everything. It is everything. So let's try to find the Sanskrit words for whatever this thing is saying. So Dritiya Pada, which means second quarter, second part, second sector, and what is that? Swapna Prasthano, Swapna Sthano Ant. So this is the dream state. And again, it has same aspects. It has same 7 limbs and 19 mouths. It has these modes of operation again in the dream state. And what is this state called? There is the name of the stage and the state, Tejasya. So if you read this, you will be it will be difficult to find where is the Tejasya, because it got lost into the unions of words. So fortunately we have the translation. I don't think there is much remains to talk about the Tejas, but let us see what Shankar says about it. The dreaming state, where the consciousness appears in same way like the waking state, except it is introverted, whose experience is the subtle objects. Subtle means not made up of matter. So Shankar says he is called the Swapna Sthana, because the dream state in his Tejas sphere, because the dream is his sphere. Waking consciousness and being associated. Tejas, by the way, also means the light body, not a matter body. So being associated as it is with many means and appearing conscious of objects as if external, though in reality they are nothing but states of mind, leaves in the mind corresponding impressions, that the mind in dream, without any of the external means but possessed of the impressions left on it by the waking consciousness, like a piece of canvas with the picture painted on it, experiences the dream state also as if it were like the waking, is due to its being under the influence of ignorance, desire, and their action. Thus it is said, and when he falls asleep, then after having taken away with him portion of the impressions from the world, sorry, I was just checking the stream. I need to do all the jobs here. So thus it is said, and when he falls asleep, then after having taken away with him portion of the impressions from the world during the waking state, destroying and building up again, he experiences a dream by his own light. You see, that is why it's called Tejas. So this is Brihadaranyaka Upnishad. Similarly, the Atharvana After introducing the subject with all the senses become one in the highest, Dev, the mind continues. There the God mind enjoys in dream greatness. A lot of attempts of making it correct in English. From the standpoint of the sense organs, the mind is internal. From the standpoint of the sense, and he is called the Antapragya, or conscious of the internal, because his consciousness in dream becomes aware of the mental states, which are impressions left by the previous waking state. He is called the Tejas because he appears as the subject through, though this dream consciousness is without any gross object and is of the nature of the essence of light. You see, the Vishwa, the subject of the waking state, now shortened, you see, Vishwanar is now shortened to Vishwa, experiences consciousness associated with gross external objects, whereas here in the dream state, the object of experience is consciousness consisting of vasanas, the impressions of past experience. Therefore, this experience is called the experience of subtle. The rest is common with the previous Shruti. This Tejas is the second quarter of Atman. So pretty clear from this that he is saying that the consciousness is experiencing an experience which is created from memory. What is memory? It is an impression that is left over from the waking state. And this is our own direct experience. That in the dreams we do not experience anything else except mix and match events, a remnant of our waking state. That is the dream state. And because there are no gross objects, it is all mind. It is just pure subjectivity in the dream. And that is why it is, and the consciousness has been given a new name, Tejas. It is made up of light. I mean, it observes everything in its own light. There is nothing else except itself there. And of course the mind. And what is the experience consists of? Now this is the technical word here, vasanas, the impressions of past experience. That is the vasanas. Now some people are going to translate it into desires also. But desire is an activity that is generated out of impressions. Desire is an activity of the mind that is generated out of memory only. Memory of whatever was experienced in the waking state. So the vasanas can be equated with impressions, but I think sanskar will be a proper word here. I don't know why he used the vasanas, because nowadays we associate the vasanas with desires and the impressions are translated into sanskar. So we don't know why this happened here, but we know the essential thing that he is trying to convey, or this verse is trying to say. So this piece of canvas metaphor is very good. Just like the painter paints on a canvas whatever is seen in the reality or in the physical world, that impressions are made on the canvas, and then we can look at the canvas also. So looking at the canvas will be the dream state, and the painter using the landscape will to paint it will be the waking state. Looking directly at the landscape will be the waking state. So the Tika is not adding more to whatever Shankar has said. Remember, we are not even into the Gaudapada yet. we have not encountered the Gaudapada Karika yet. This is Shankar talking about the Mandukya Upanishad. So it will become probably more interesting when the Gaudapada, who is Shankar's guru, steps in. So Mandukya is nothing, 6 verses, isn't it? It's verse 5. And that is the state of deep sleep, wherein the sleeper does not desire any objects, nor does he see any dream. The third quarter is the pragya, whose sphere is deep sleep, in whom all experiences become unified or undifferentiated, who is verily a mass of consciousness, entire, who is full of bliss and who experiences bliss, and who is the path leading to the knowledge of the 2 other states. So we are in the 3rd sector, we are in the 3rd state of consciousness, which is deep sleep. So let's look into the Sanskrit Sushupta Sthana, the state of deep sleep. This is where it is. So, yatra supto na kaschanna kamam kamyate na kaschanna swapna pashyati tat sushuptam. No desires, no actions, no dreams. This is the deep sleep. This is simple Sanskrit, you can see, but the rest you won't be able to find. For example, these words. You can guess, there is Anand here. So probably it is saying that it is introverted into a state of bliss. That is what it is saying. And this is very interesting. It is saying Pragyanaghan, which means dense mass of consciousness. And that is what they have translated into it. But I don't know this from my experience, isn't it? I don't know what this mass of consciousness is. I do not see that this is the real state there. So this can be translated into a seed form of consciousness instead of mass of consciousness. Now please note that this is my personal interpretation. I am not saying that Nikhilanand, Swami Nikhilanand has made an error here. Probably he uses this kind of terminology, but I never see mass of consciousness in the deep sleep. So what I am going to do, take a look at the Sanskrit here. Pragya cannot be translated as consciousness. It can be translated as intellect, refined intellect, something like that. But here, the pragya has been named as state of consciousness. So I think this word comes from here. That if we ignore the common meaning of pragya here, then it is just a name here. So now how to pronounce this thing? Some people are going to pronounce it pragna also, which is okay. Pragna is okay. But we from the Hindi speaking part of India, we pronounce this thing as gya, not nya. Others, they pronounce it as nya. So no problem. There's a minor issue, isn't it? But this should not be taken to mean the finer intellect. Here, in the context of Mandukya Upanishad, because there are more connotations of pragya. So here you should just assume that it is a name of the state of deep sleep, where this Vishwa has been transformed into pragya. And it is a seed state. The ghanam, the word here, the word ghan, should not be translated into a mass. That is my 2 cents. It should be translated into a seed. That is more closer to our experience, isn't it? Just like the seed is a concentrated, ghana, dense form of a tree. The whole tree comes from the seed. You see? So there is a potential there inherent in the seed, out of which the whole tree comes out. Although some people may not agree, because the tree is assembled out of air and water and other things. But there is a potential in the seed, figuratively, metaphorically speaking. It has the information to manufacture the whole tree, isn't it? Similarly, the pragya or the sleep state has a deep potential, a hidden potential to be converted into the other 2 states, which are dream and waking. That is what I can say about the state of deep sleep. It is a seeds state. The seeds of world of all kinds, whether they're physical, non-physical, they are contained in the deep sleep. It is not nothing. Sleep is not nothing. It has a potential which has not been manifested yet, and it does not last. This state changes into other states. The potential becomes manifested. So let me see what Shankar is saying. Probably he will get more clues here. The adjectival clause, which is wherein the sleeper, etc., is put with a view to enabling one to grasp what the state of deep sleep, sushupti, signifies. Inasmuch as sleep characterized by the absence of knowledge of reality is the common feature of those mental modifications which are associated with the waking, perception, and non-perception. Well, this can be very confusing, isn't it? It's just the sentence does not even end for 4 lines. So I'll go there, no problems. Or the object of the introduction of the adjectival clause may be to distinguish the state of deep sleep of the sleeping person from the 2 previous states, as sleep characterized by the absence of knowledge of reality is the common feature of 3 states, wherein, that is to say, in which state or time the sleeping person does not see any dream, nor he desire any desirable object. So I think these 2 or 3 sentences, they are talking about the sleeper. Who is the sleeper? Some people are going to ask, is the consciousness sleeping? Is the body sleeping? And Shankara is saying, well, don't worry, it is just, it is just an instrument to grasp the state of deep sleep. So there is no sleeper, remember. There is just sleep. That is what he's trying to say. I think so. I cannot be bothered to read it again. So this is much easier to see. Wherein, that is to say, in which state of time the sleeping person does not see any dream, nor does he desire any desirable object. For in the state of deep sleep, there does not exist, as in the two other states, any desire or the dream experience whose characteristic is to take a thing for what it is not. Okay, so in the other states, you take the appearances as objects, as real. Here, there is no such experience. There are no objects. Although all the vibrations are there, although the Om is present, you cannot say the Om is gone, but experience is gone, not present. The objects are not being made out of the Om. The illusions are not, the canvas is blank, although it has the whole potential to be converted into a painting. The screen is off, but it can be turned on. It can display pictures. He is called Sushupta Sthana because his sphere in this is the state of deep sleep. So similarly, it is called Ekibhuta. That is the state in which all experiences become unified. Ek means one, Bhut means to become. A state in which all objects of duality, which are nothing but forms of thought spread over the two states, the waking and the dream, reach the state of indiscrimination or non-differentiation without losing their characteristics. As the day, revealing phenomenal objects as enveloped by the darkness of the night. So that's what I was talking about, that it is not that the objects are gone. It is not that the worlds disappear, the universes disappear. No. Only that they are not differentiated. The activity of the mind is not present to tell you which is what object. That is why the consciousness assumes a seed form that is more closer to our experience, isn't it? Then the objects and thoughts and whatever creations of the mind, they start appearing as soon as the state is over. I do not say that the world disappeared. I simply say that my state changed, isn't it? Although it is equally correct to say that the world disappeared. Because that which appears, we call that thing as world, that experience as world. We do not call the seed of the world as the world. We call the seed of the world as consciousness. So that is equally correct to say that the world disappears. But strictly speaking, we say that the state changed while nothing appeared and nothing disappeared actually. Therefore, conscious experiences, which are nothing but forms of thought, perceived during dream and waking states, become a thick mass of consciousness, as it were, in deep sleep. This state of deep sleep is called the Prajna Gharta. I cannot pronounce this, it's written in English. A mass of all consciousness unified. And this is a wrong, I think. He's trying to say Pragnaghan. Pragyanaghan. So, very difficult word. But somehow the R and T came into it. Probably. Hopefully this is correct. I don't know. Yes, this is correct because here it is saying Pragyanaghan. This is correct. The spelling mistake is here. So it is again translated as a mass of all consciousness unified. So you can take it like given that no proper English word exists for seed consciousness, it is very approximate phrase that can be translated, that this word can be translated into. So on account of the absence of all manifolds, as it at night, owing to the discrimination produced by darkness, all percepts become a mass of darkness, as it were. So also in the state of deep sleep, all objects of consciousness verily become a mass of consciousness. The word eva in this text denotes the absence of any other thing except consciousness. These brackets are very confusing. They are confusing me. The mind is free from the miseries of the efforts made on accounts of the states of mind being involved in the relationship of subject and object. So, what is the mind doing in the waking state and the dream state? It is busy forming all these relationships of subject and object. Oh, it is me and that is that and I need this and so on, you see. That means it is miserable. It is not peaceful. It is jumping up and down like a monkey. Even, dream and waking, not much difference, you see. The only difference is the name of the states, the Vishwa and the Tejas, and the experiences, you can say, from not so correct perspective, the gross and subtle, they are of two different kinds. Although the waking state also, the experiences are subtle only, but they do not belong to this memory, they belong to the universal memory. That's all. You can see the roots of the word Vishwanar, Vishwa and Vishnu, same. They come from the same root. So the universal memory is also called Vishnu in Vedic text. So we are freed from the miseries produced by the mind. It is not trying to do anything. It is not trying to grasp or make sense of, to achieve something or to survive. Even it is freed from these very basic tendencies of survival also. The aham is gone. And therefore, it is called the Anandamaya, which is endowed with an abundance of bliss. The deep sleep is a very blissful state. But it is not bliss itself, because it is not bliss infinite. Now, this is very, very cryptic. As in common experience, because you do not know what is bliss infinite. As in common experience parlance, one free from effort is called happy and enjoyer of bliss, as the pragya enjoys this state of deep sleep, which is entirely free from all efforts. Therefore, it is called the Anandabhuk, the experiencer of bliss. And the Shruti also says this is the highest bliss. It is called the Chetomukh, because it is the doorway to the cognition of the other two states of consciousness known as dream and waking, or because the what is this? Chit, you can say Chet here with Chetana, the perceiving entity, or the one who perceives. I don't know from where this came. Is it in this Sanskrit word? Yes, here it is. So very confusing. Yes, here here is the Ananda book also. So the one who is experiencing the bliss, and Chetamuk, what is saying about the Chetamuk? It is another name, you say. Nothing big there. The perceiving entity. Okay, just another name. Characterized by empirical consciousness. Bodh is its doorway leading to the experience of dreams. That is, therefore, it is called the Chetamuk. It is called Pragya as it is conscious of the past and the future as well as of all objects. It is called the Pragya, the knower par excellence, even in the deep sleep, because of its having been so in the two previous states. Or it is called the Pragya because its peculiar feature is consciousness undifferentiated. In the two other states, consciousness exists, no doubt, but it is there, aware of the experience of variety. The Pragya, thus described, is the third quarter. Now, there are some very, very controversial things that he is saying. He's saying it's called Pragya as it is conscious of the past and the future as well of all objects. I don't know. I don't know actually. What does your direct experience tell you? Is the state of the sleep contain the past and the future? No, it does not. Can we say that I am conscious of the past and future here? So I don't know why he's saying it. I can understand why it can be called as Chetamuk because it is a doorway to aware experience. You can translate the Chetna as awareness, awareness of something. You see, that means when there is a potential for awareness, you can rightly say it is Chetamuk. But what is he saying about the past and future? I could not understand it actually. You can translate, yes, the Pragya as the knower, even in deep sleep, because of its having been so in the previous state. Now this makes a little bit of sense. It is the same consciousness which was there in the previous two states. That is what he is saying. You cannot call it unconsciousness like people say. I was unconscious when I was asleep. What are they talking about? How did the conscious thing arise out of unconscious? By magic or something? No, it is consciousness all throughout all the states. What you are unconscious of is objects, the mental activity is not present. But that cannot be called as unconsciousness. That can be called as unawareness. And therefore, you can translate Pragya as awareness also. There is unawareness of objective states of the two, just like in the two previous states. But it is the same Pragya which knows the waking state and the the dream state. Same thing is here. Only the state change has happened. Now it is undifferentiated consciousness because the mind activity has stopped, so the mind cannot form the technicolor experience out of pure vibrations of consciousness. There are no senses. Senses are not that active, you can say. They are active, but their output is not being processed. Somebody calls your name, you get up from the deep sleep, isn't it? You hear a loud sound or somebody turns on the light. That means You get up from the deep sleep. That means senses are active, but they are not being processed unless another process in the mind says, "Look, there is some danger for to your existence here. Something danger is happening. Something important is happening outside." So then the mind reboots from there. That means all the potential is already there. It does not go away. Nothing goes away. Not the experience, not the experiencer. They all remain there, although in unmanifested state. Like they're calling it the mass of consciousness, which is okay, fine, you see. You can call it whatever you want. This Tika by Anandagiri confuses me even more. So like this, you see, this is very confusing, isn't it? Non-perception, dream experience is here designated as non-perception, as it is distinct from the perception of gross objects of the waking state. In the dream state, the objects of perception, which are also modifications of the mind, are but the subtle impressions left by the objects of the waking state. That is the dream objects, and are such can be only known from the experience of the waking state. Now this is correct, but calling it non-perception is going to confuse everybody. And you are going to say, what do you mean non-perception? I can easily perceive everything in the dream. Otherwise, how can I say that I saw the dream? So what I do is usually I use the word non-physical perception. So sorry again for a quick break there. I forgot to read the comments. Bhagyalakshmi is saying, Mukha means threshold. Yes, very good. Yes. It is like a doorway, isn't it? Mukha means threshold. So like a mouth of the river or entrance into the building is Mukha. So that is a very good translation. Threshold. It is a threshold of other states, the sleeping state. It is not unconsciousness. So I was talking about the non-perception. Is if you use this kind of English translation, is bound to confuse everybody. It is not that there is non-perception in dream. There is perception. Perception is of non-physical objects. It is also object. Anything that is not subject is the object. So what do? I usually call them as non-physical perceptions, as contrasted with the physical perceptions. Although in the end, all perceptions turn out to be non-physical type, and then it becomes really cumbersome to call non-physical every time, you see, to append prefix non-physical in front of perception all the time. So we use only perception and leave it. We hope that the person will understand what is the meaning of physical and non-physical here. It's all one kind of perception. And similarly, when it comes to the senses, I distinguish the senses as physical senses and non-physical senses. Now, when you are in the dream, you may have asked this question to yourself. The eyes are not working. These are, the body is asleep. So how am I able to see? Even in the case of daydream, what is the sense which is showing me the scenery in the dream, or I'm able to hear things? Sometimes I, feel the heat or cold, or touch, or I smell things which are very rare. The smell and the taste is almost absent from the dreams. I don't know why. Some people may have this kind of experience, some may not. So more weightage is given to the sight. So you can ask that why is it that I can see in the dream when the eyes are not working? Well, the sense of seeing is working. The physical window of the sense, which are your eyes in your skull, they are almost dormant. They are looking, they are, seeing a little bit, but not much. The Indri is active, but it is introverted. Now the attention has been focused into the proper sense of seeing, but since the input from the eyes is absent, the input from the memory is taken. That's all. Nothing really changes here. In the case of seeing in the daytime, in the waking state, when you are awake, and the input from the universal memory is taken instead of your own private subjective memory. It is very easy to see, isn't it? The senses are not something physical. The senses are also a part of the mind, a structure in the mind. They are simply reading the memory and translating it into qualities, tanmatras. That is the job of the senses. They are doing nothing else. They convert the raw vibrations into something, a format, which is more pleasing to consciousness. Now you must get into the poetry of this kind, because we don't know actually what are qualities and all. They can be experienced, but they cannot be known as any other thing. The what question fails here in case of qualities. So we know that the red color is a vibration of some kind, but no, the red is different, vibrations are different. This is what the mind will tell us. So some people may argue that the qualities themselves are fundamental, not the vibration, which is fine, you see. Use whatever you like. So the real senses are non-physical in the end, because you can have them without the eyes. If a person becomes blind, the dreaming will continue. He is not going to become blind in dreams. That means the non-physical is primary. The physical is a derivative of non-physical. Look at this. Our worldview is totally upside down, actually, thanks to materialism. So there is the 5th verse. Let me see the 6th, and then we can stop. After 6th, we can stop. So this is the Lord of all. This is the knower of all. This is the controller within. This is the source of all. And this is that from which all things originate and in which they finally disappear. Everything appears and disappears on the screen of this mighty Brahman or Atman, which appears in these 3 states. It has been called the Sarveshwar, which is translated as the Lord of all, which is okay, isn't it? Sometimes it is the Ishwar takes the place of Atman many times, but then we do not say Ishwar all the time. So Shankara has commentary here. All of the entire physical and superphysical universe, this is called the Ishwar, all that is manifested. He is not something separate from the universe as others hold. The Shruti also says, O good one, Prana, Pragya or Ishwar is that in which the mind is bound. He is omniscient because he is the knower of all beings in their different conditions. He is the Antaryamin, and that is he alone entering into all direct. He alone entering into all. I mean, probably this means he pervades everything, directs everything from within. Therefore, he is called the origin of all because from him proceeds the universe, characterized by diversity as described before. It being so, he is verily that form from which all things proceed and in which all disappear. So many words are thrown and they all point to this hidden potential in the Atman or consciousness, which appears in three states. So who is Ishvara? It is nothing, it is consciousness. I am the Ishvara, there is nobody else here. Who is Antaryamin? I am that. Who is all these words? Well, me only. Who is the knower of all? I am. Who is the controller of all? I am. Who is the source? I am the source. So don't confuse it with somebody else, which has happened because of this kind of terminology being used, because nobody was there to explain these things. People started worshipping myself as somebody else. So that there goes your theology completely. If you read the source like this, Mandukya Upanishad, you will know what these things are, and then you will never fall into ignorance. Now starts the Mandukya Karika proper. Here commences Gaudapada's Karika in explanation of the Mandukya Shruti. So Shankar is going to comment on it also. We are more interested in what the Gaudapada says, but we are going to do it tomorrow. We'll start this chapter 1 tomorrow. Today it's already very late, thanks to all the distractions and internet dropouts and all these things. And sometimes I get confused. This is the first time I am reading scripture of this magnitude. I never read these things. I always want to go to the easiest possible path, which is direct experience. Who can tell us more about the waking, dreaming and sleep? My own experience. But it is it is good to see what other masters have done. When these great minds, whatever, how they explored consciousness, how they formed a very advanced vocabulary, and how there are so many different streams and tradition that merge into Advaita Vedanta. Like you see so many different words, Ishwar and Antaryamin and all this, coming and joining. And the Shankar is like pulling them out from his hat all the time. What does that mean? That this culture had a very long tradition of exploration into mind and consciousness. That is what I find fascinating. although there is not much to know here. People have been studying this, commenting and writing the Upanishads and doing commentaries since many thousand years. It's unbroken science, and we are continuing. Why? Because we like it. That is what we like. That is what a seeker likes. That is what spirituality is all about. Even though you want to see what others are saying about these things, and you can get the ready-made vocabulary that is well established since many thousand years. So now onwards, whenever somebody speaks of Vishwa, Tejas and Pragya, you have the required background to talk about these things. Whenever somebody speaks about the Om, the Om denotes these four states. What is fourth? Well, that is coming actually. It's called Turiya. But you know what the Om stands for. Not four, but three at least. You are very sure of that. Why? Only chanting Om is not going to bring you any knowledge. Why? It is stupidity to simply say the word Om, Om, Om like a parrot, like a broken record. Because you need to find the encoded knowledge behind this Om.